Hello?
Are you okay, Sam?
Yes, I'm here.
Brilliant. So just let you know, you're on the MMA Mental podcast with myself, Ray, and my co-host, Patrick.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Hey, great to talk to you, Sam.
Yeah, good to hear from you guys.
Brilliant. We appreciate you coming on. We've been looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. I've been looking forward since I've been in Ireland.
Well, funny you should mention Ireland. Were you over there with Jesse Taylor? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I was his cornerman when he came over and won the strap.
Yeah, he did really well. What was it like calling him, and how pleased were you to see him get the title?
You know, Jess is a good buddy of mine, training partners and all that, and it was fantastic seeing him get something he worked so hard to get. And he really is. He's in the gym every day working with me, working with their other teammates, and he deserved that win.
I think as well, Cage Warriors is a promotion that's really getting stronger and stronger and stronger as well. So it's certainly one of the best promotions on this side, on my side of the world, if you like. And it just shows it kind of adds value to the fact that he's won the bout because it's such a strong promotion.
Oh, absolutely. It really is a great promotion, and he's fought for him once or twice before, and he loves him too. He hopes to hold that belt for a long time.
Brilliant. Well, let's get back to you. We wanted to speak about you. I mean, obviously we saw you recently on The Ultimate Fighter with Team Carwin and Team Nelson. How did you find your experiences in the Ultimate Fighter house?
It was a great experience. I gotta say it was a little boring while in the house. The cameras and the editors make it look like it's a mile a minute, ride. But in all honesty, Team Carwin, we worked out about 4 hours a day. The rest of the time, we were at the house doing nothing. And then Team Nelson, they only worked out about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. So they had even less time at the gym. But it was a great experience, got to train with some world-class guys. Colton Smith was on the other team, but he and I still stay in contact even now.
I mean, with regards, you mentioned there about the teams and seeing how the season played out, are you glad that you were on Team Carwin? He seemed to get a better response from his fighters.
Absolutely. It was a night and day difference between the teams. Team Carwin was a real team. They treated us like a team. They treated us like we wanted to be there, and it was an amazing experience. Since the show, I've even been up. I've trained with Carwin and his team a couple times, and it's been really wonderful.
I mean, you talk about Team Carwin. I mean, some of the guys, the coaches that you trained with were fantastic. The guys that jumped out to me were Trevor Whitman, Nate Marquardt, Pat Barry, Dwayne Ludwig. Had you worked with those guys before, or was it the first time working with them?
I had worked with Pat Barry once before, but the rest of the guys, they were new to me. And what a treat. Nate Marquardt is incredible. Dwayne Ludwig might be the best striker in the UFC. Trevor Whitman, he's trained some of the past and future, champs of the world in boxing and MMA. It was a wonderful coaching staff and team that Carwin put together.
So with hindsight then, and with the way the season played out, are you glad that you took part in the season?
I do. Hindsight's definitely during the season. I didn't do as well as I wanted to. The weight cut kind of killed me, and during the season, the thought came to my mind, saying, "Oh, why'd I do this? Why'd I do this?" But now that everything's done and over with, it was definitely worth doing. And if given the opportunity, I would have done it again.
Because I know we spoke to Igor last week, and I know he said he really struggled with being in the house, and he found it very hard being away from his family and things like that. So you felt you were more able to deal with that maybe better?
Yeah, but I don't have any kids. I mean, Igor and I, we got along really well. We stay in contact even now, living on opposite sides of the world. And he left at home a wife and 2 kids, and his gym and everything. I've got a wife now, but no kids yet, and it wasn't as hard for me as it was for him.
Have you noticed a big difference in your profile being raised since being on the... Because I know you had fought in big promotions before the Ultimate Fighter, but being on the Ultimate Fighter and being made accessible to more viewers, have you felt... do you feel like your stock's rise? Are you getting noticed more? Has it led to more opportunities?
When I'm at fights, when my buddies are fighting or I'm invited to fights, I'm recognized, wall to wall. Everybody knows me, wants a picture with me, and I love it. Even when I was out in Ireland, people out there recognized me for my big knockout. But outside of the fighting, I've been noticed a couple times, and a couple people, wanted to shake my hand and everything. And so it hasn't been huge. Like my fiance or wife, she won America's Next Top Model, and this is like 3 years ago, and still today she gets stopped and recognized everywhere we go. So it's I'm getting used to it, I guess. Yeah, kind of like she did.
It's fair to say as well, in the house, you were obviously your nickname's Smiling Sam. You were one of the nicer guys in the house, and there was a couple of guys in there that maybe didn't carry themselves as well as they should have done, and as well as some of the guys like yourself did. Was there any of the guys that got on that you felt were a bit too much, that got on your nerves a little bit, or were you okay with everybody?
There were two guys. Nick from Alaska. At the first 4 weeks, he drove me nuts. He whistled all the time, and he was an okay guy, but his whistling absolutely drove us nuts. And it was just all the time. But he was an okay guy. It was just his whistling. And then Mike Ricci, he was the one guy on the show I didn't like, and I was happy to see him lose to Colton.
Really? So even now, since the show, you're just not a fan of him at all, then?
Not at all. They didn't show everything, on screen, but just knowing him personally, was not a fan of him at all.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what was it that he was doing that you didn't like? Because you seem the kind of person that would get on with anybody.
Yeah, and I really did. And on the show, we didn't butt heads or anything. The last week, he said something about my fiance, but it wasn't anything terrible. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It was just he always had stories. He was better than everyone. His training was better. He's smarter than everyone. Just everything was about how great he is and how everything else is lacking. And it was just constantly every time he opened his mouth. And so that just it wore on me. Especially 6 weeks, all you have to do is talk to the other guys. And every time you talk to him, he talks about how his is better.
Yeah. Were you glad to see him get the loss? Do you think he underestimated Colton going into that final?
I absolutely do. The internet said Colton was going to lose. The betting line said Colton was going to lose. I thought Colton was going to win. Ricci is, as much as I wasn't a huge fan of his, he was probably the most athletic guy in the house. He was a talented fighter, not a great work ethic. And I thought that was going to come to play, and it did. He gassed, halfway through the first round. And Colton works hard. He went in there with a mission, and he accomplished it.
He certainly. I mean, we spoke to Colton last week, and he's very driven, isn't he? And I personally thought he was the most consistent fighter in the house. I mean, obviously Ricci had the big elbow win, which was impressive, but out of everyone in the house, Colton Smith was the one man who come into every fight, and he fought the same every time, and it was effective, and it was good to watch as well. I thought I enjoyed watching him fight.
Yeah, I did too. He and Eddie had probably the best fight of the season, I thought. I would have loved to have seen a third round, but that was a great fight. And his fight with John Manley, I think that got fight of the season. That was another good one. And then even his fight against Ricci in the finale, it was a clinic. He took Ricci down at will, tossed him around, tried to finish him the whole time. So I was happy to see him win, and he deserves it. He's a hard-working soldier, and he earned it.
Yeah, he did. He did definitely earn it, and he did look good in the house. His fight with Eddie Ellis was brilliant. Yeah. I know Patrick's eager to jump in, so one last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, before I let Patrick jump in, sorry. What were your views on Julian Lane? Because I think sometimes his antics were not very good in the house.
You know what? Julian was a good enough guy. He lost the fight, and it'll affect everyone. And he decided he was going to drink one night. And it was like one night that he drank a little too much. They showed it. They made it seem like it was way bigger than it was. He was an okay guy. He was there just trying to, I think You guys still there?
Yeah, sorry about that, Sam. It just went a little bit quiet. Can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Yeah, you've come back through clearly now. So yeah, what were you saying? You said they kind of exaggerated a little bit with Julian Lane. They made it seem worse than what it was.
Yeah, they made it seem like he was always drinking and partying and everything. And it was about 2 days after he lost his fight. He started, he was depressed like everyone was. And I tell you from losing on the show, unfortunately, it was the worst feeling I think I've ever had. I just felt I'm good at fighting and now I'm not good at fighting. And it was the same thing with him. He just drank and he got a little rowdy. It was only for about an afternoon and an evening, but that makes good TV, so they played it up quite a bit on the show.
Yeah, they certainly made it look like more than that. Are you good to jump in, Patrick?
Yeah, sure am, Ray. And great to talk to you again, Sam. Always a pleasure.
Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, now, so I guess it's safe to say for tournament purposes, like the Ultimate Fighter and Bellator, is it easier for you to stay at middleweight as opposed to making the cut to welterweight on such a frequent basis?
Absolutely. That is something I would change 100%. I had tried out for a bunch of different seasons, and every time I tried out, they cut the weight class. So this time they called me and said, "Hey, you want in? It's at 170." I said, "Okay, I'll make it." I said, "All right, you got 29 days." And I was about 215 when they called.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was miserable. So I made the weight for the first one. I made 170. It almost killed me, but I made it. And then the next day I weighed in at 196. I got my knockout. And then 6 days later I had to make weight again to fight. And that was where the problem came in. Yeah, I woke up the next morning and I was just tired all day. I couldn't shake this feeling like I just wanted to go back to bed. And so hindsight, and I'll tell all my friends, everyone, I said, don't go lighter than you should. Cutting that much, that frequently, it's not only probably not good for you, it's just, it will play an effect on your fight.
Yeah, I could only imagine. So, if the UFC offered you a fight though at 170, of course, they do things on less frequent basis than like a Bellator or on the Ultimate Fighter system. Would you fight at 170 for the UFC?
You know what? Whoever my boss is, you know what? Right now I'm fighting for the MFC, and I'm really training for this one. It's at 185, and ideally I'm going to stick at 185 or 205 for the rest of my career. But if the opportunity arises that someone's going to, throw a lot of zeros my way, I'll make whatever weight they want me to.
Okay. Now I hadn't heard about your signing with UFC or with MFC. I believe you fought with the Maximum Fighting Championship before. Is that correct?
I did not, but a teammate of mine did. Richie Whitson. He fought for him a couple times and had a good run.
Okay. Excellent. What is your fight schedule with them?
February 15th, I'm going to be fighting Elvis. No, forgive me his last name. It's Mutapikik. I haven't quite figured out how to pronounce it yet, but he's a stud. He's got 12 fights, 12 finishes, whether submission or knockout, or 12 wins, 2 losses. And it's going to be a great fight. He's kind of a stand-up specialist with a lot of wrestling. I'm kind of a stand-up specialist with a lot of wrestling, and I think it should be a good fight.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, going back a little bit, you seem like such a fun-loving, a happy dude. You always got a smiling disposition, hence the nickname. What drove you to compete in mixed martial arts?
Honestly, I thought I was tough. I'd never watched fighting, never saw anything. I heard there's a cage fight where you get to fight someone. I said, well, shoot, I can do that. And I got in the cage and found out I wasn't nearly as tough as I thought I was. And so got my head beat in. And from that point, I was kind of hooked. I said, wow. And so then I started fighting as often as I could. And, after that first loss, I went on an 11 fight win streak, just knocking everyone out. And then I had my first professional loss, and I decided, okay, now this is something I can do. And so it was really, I just thought I was tough, and I turned out I wasn't. But now I think I'm tough again, so I'm looking forward to getting back in the cage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've definitely certified your toughness. Now, are you still with Team Quest down in Temecula?
Yes, sir. I'm still training out with Dan Henderson's Team Quest, Temecula, California.
Beautiful. What's it like over there in the gym right now?
It's the hardest training I've ever had. I've worked out at a bunch of the higher level gyms across the country, and nothing compares to Team Quest. Our team trains hard. We train to win. Our next fight is this weekend. Tarek Saffardine's fighting Nate Marquardt for the Strikeforce title, and we've all been behind him 100% of the way, and we're looking forward to seeing him win this belt.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a big fight. The last Strikeforce event ever. Yes, definitely. Good luck to Tarek. Now, going back even further, you wrestled and played American football in high school and college. If you could compete in any pro sport besides MMA, which would it be?
Oh, that's assuming I'm good enough to participate in any of them.
Yeah. If you just had that, if you had the hops, and wanted to get in the NBA,
right?
Whatever.
You know what? I'm a huge football fan. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. We're in the playoffs again this year. We won the first round. We're playing San Francisco this next week. No, if I had my choice, I'd be a linebacker for the Green Bay Packers.
Awesome. Now you had mentioned your fiance earlier in the show. You proposed to her actually in the cage. I believe it was after a loss, to which she said yes. Did that take away the sting of defeat that night?
It sure did. I won that fight for 24 minutes, and in the last minute I got choked. I was so disappointed. But you know what? As soon as I woke up, it's like, oh yeah, I got to propose now. And that kind of, I was already on to the next thing. Next thing was getting married.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, I was watching one of your older fights earlier. It was with Eddie Larea at Madtown Throwdown, and that was a really good one. He was throwing these just winging kicks at you, and he had his hands like down by his knees. It looked like there was a kick, like he kicked you in the eye at some point or something like that. What exactly happened?
I've broken my rib in a fight. I've broken my hand in a fight, my shin in a fight, all of that. And the most painful thing that has ever happened to me in a fight was getting poked in the eye there. It was absolutely miserable. As soon as it happened, every knowledge of fighting I ever had or trained went out the window, and it went to, oh, my eye. And so you saw that the doctor stopped it and came over and said, does it hurt? And I said, no, it doesn't hurt. And it hurt so much. But I didn't want him to cancel the fight. So I said, well, can you see out of it? And he covered my good eye. And I could just kind of peek out of my good eye. And I could see nothing out of the left. I saw, okay, 2 fingers. He said, okay, you can fight. So I went out, I finished, I TKO'd him and all that. And then I left the ring, and he said, okay, how's your eye really? And I told him it hurts so bad, I need a doctor. I can't see anything.
Oh, man.
And it was, for about 5 days, I couldn't see out of my left eye. He scratched the retina with whatever he hit me with. I think it was a finger, but I'm not sure. It was miserable.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm glad to hear that you were recovered from that, though, ultimately. I was going to ask about that. There just seems to be something about inadvertent shots that makes fighters kind of hulk out and just come out looking for the finish. Is that what happened in your fight that night?
A little bit. I was still, I didn't lose control of myself. I thought I was kind of winning the fight up until that point, but it was definitely, I couldn't see out of my left eye. I had to finish him because I didn't want it to go any further. I didn't want the doctor to come back out and, say I was lying earlier. So it was kind of, I had to finish it before somebody had a chance to stop it because of the eye poke.
I see. Well, I want to pass it back to Ray real quick. I think Ray has a couple more questions. Ray, you set?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Sam, I've got one last question for you, then we're going to let you give you a shout out before we let you go. This comes from one of our followers on Facebook and the question on Twitter. Sorry, and the question is, what exactly did you do to become so good looking and awesome?
Well, I don't want to take all the credit for that. My parents had a little something to do with that. A lot of hard work.
Just so everybody knows, I'm not gay. that was a question that Sam tweeted me himself, and I thought, right, I'm going to throw it at him on Twitter.
Oh, sure, Ray.
Before we let you go, Sam, is there anyone you'd like to shout out, and also let people know your Twitter handle, your Facebook, and obviously any sponsors you want to shout out as well?
Well, absolutely. I got to thank my team, Team Quest, greatest team on the planet. They're behind me 100% of the way, and we work really well as a team. My head corner person is my wife, McKee Sullivan, and then I got to thank all my training partners. And Tarek Saffordine, you know, he's one of my number one training partners. So I hope y'all get to watch him win this world title this Saturday. And if anyone ever has any questions they want to ask me, I'm really good at getting back to people on Twitter. I'm at Smilin' Sam. So hit me up and I'll answer whatever you guys, throw my way.
Brilliant, Sam. We really appreciate your time today, and we look forward to seeing you get back in the octagon as well at MFC, and we know you're going to get another win and start working your way back. Yeah, that's the plan. I'm going to win this belt and go from there. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for your time. Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on. All right. See you soon, Sam.